Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. And whether you're tuning in on the radio dial in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM, we welcome you. Others joining us from one of our online affiliates around the world, we're glad to have all of you with us as well. We're excited to welcome Tana Session to our program today. Tana is someone who's been known not only, of course, as a career strategist, but also as a life coach and author. Her book that came out in December of last year is called Get Your Career Life in Order. We'll tell you a little bit later how you can get your own copy of the book, but we also will talk to Tana not only about what it's been like for her to see her own success realized, but also what it's been like for her to help others to navigate the difficult waters that are out there when it comes to pursuing their own goals and dreams. And if you're just hearing about Tana, we'll tell you at the end of our segment how you can stay connected with her. But Tana, hello to you and welcome to the program.
Hi, Cyrus. Thank you so much. Honored to be here.
Well, glad to have you on with us. As I said, we're going to be talking more about your book at the end of the segment. I want to first of all talk about this experience for you, Tana, because, as I said, you are known for the work you've been able to do for others, but you've been able to achieve quite a bit for yourself. What has that been like for you to kind of reflect on your own experience and journey and what you've been able to achieve?
That's a great question. So I think for me, using any adversities that I've experienced in my life, whether personal or professional, and being able to use them as a foundation versus an excuse to succeed. I use them as motivators. I use them as drivers, everything from, being a product of foster care to experiencing divorce and a custody battle. So a lot of the things that I've dealt with in my career, in terms of my career, being fired twice. So a lot of the experience I've had, I've been able to share those with my clients, and it helps them humanize what I can do for them as a coach, because oftentimes I've experienced a lot of the same adversities that they've had and overcame them.
Right, and overcame them. I think that's the important thing, too. One thing I noticed, and I was sent a copy of your book, Tana, but I went ahead and went over to Amazon.com and purchased the ebook for myself. You guys can get it there for only $4.49. I definitely encourage you to get it. One of the things you say very early on in the book that I think our audience here will appreciate, and it's so funny, Tana, I had a celebrity fitness coach on our program probably 3 or 4 years ago, and one of the things that he said to me about the importance of helping people to stay committed to what they want to do with their health and fitness is to discover their why. You begin your book talking about the importance of the why. What has that been like for you to be able to realize the why for yourself and then to be able to share that with others in your sessions?
It's been phenomenal, actually. It was a practice I had to go through when I was getting certified for coaching, and I had to go through the exact same exercise of understanding what was my why for wanting to, A, become a coach, and B, transition out of corporate America and start my own business. So going through that own self-reflection was very, very helpful. And it also, I use it all the time to keep me focused and targeted on what I'm working at, because people will come to you and, offer you different types of opportunities, but you have to know what's the right one, and is it really directing you still towards why you started this? And that's what I talk to my clients about, and that's perfect. As you said, I started the book out because before you even think about trying to get a new job or get promoted or even start your own business or build your personal brand, you need to understand why you're going through this. Why is it that you want to do this in the first place? So drilling down to the basics is so important.
Right. And there are so many people out there, Tana, who, and you run into this a lot, I know, who say, I want to, start a business. This is what I want to be able to do. But the planning is one thing, one area that they have not really worked on. But also discovering, even as we talked about the why they want something. I know, for a lot of people, they may think about a certain profession and think, well, that one's going to set me up financially. That's why I want to do this. But, is that a big enough why to keep you in that thing? I mean, is that one of the things that you found helpful with this book, to be able to show people that they have to be more clear about what they want and then make sure their actions are lining up with their words on that?
Absolutely. And one of the things I talk about in the book is absolutely doing a self-reflection exercise. So going even beyond and don't want. So you'll know when is the right time to accept an opportunity or step into an opportunity, or when is it not the right time. Because, again, we can get excited, especially for those who are starting their own business. We have opportunities come across our plate or across our desk. We just want to jump on everything. especially since, as an entrepreneur, you eat what you kill. So you want to try and keep money coming in, and you want to take on as many projects as possible. But again, using that, why did you start this, as your compass will help you understand what you should and should not do, what you should and should not say yes to, and also help you move forward in terms of, succeeding and staying on target, because you don't want to be all over the place.
Right. I think that's it. And one of the things I should say about the book, again, the title is Get Your Career Life in Order. The book does address a lot about for those who are applying for jobs, going in for jobs, even looking for promotions on their jobs. But I think, also, for entrepreneurs out there, even for those who say, I need to take a part-time job or be able to do something to supplement, what it is that I'm passionate about, I think this book will be helpful as well, because it helps you to realize what you can do to maximize, of course, the opportunity that you're presented with, but also to be able to ensure that you are giving the interviewer or giving the employer the best of yourself and being able to do that. One of the things that you talk about in the book is actually step 3 in the book, Tana, is the resume. And it's so interesting to me that I tell my friends a lot these days, especially with social media, a lot of times people look at that as almost an extension of the resume. I mean, what has it been like for you to share with people the importance of knowing, again, going back to what that means for them, but also realizing, and I want to actually read what you said, because I thought the wording of this was interesting. Your resume is your brand, and you are the product. You want your brand to represent you in the best way possible. I don't think people always think about it that way, but what has it been like for you to share that with them about looking at the resume as the brand?
It gives them an aha moment. They understand that they are truly representing themselves. That's the first representation of what an individual will have about them when they do apply for a job. The second will be once they see them in person or talk to them on the phone. So understanding that from the very beginning, you want to manage that brand and protect that brand the same way McDonald's does, the same way Target does. They don't let any and everybody use their logo. They are strategic about who they do advertisement with. So we have to treat ourselves the same way. We have to be the brand marketer of ourselves. That's the point that I'm trying to drive home, when I look at people's resumes and when we go through the changes. Some people will push back because they'll say, so many people give me feedback about my resume and, I'm comfortable. Okay. Is this really your best? Because you only have one opportunity. Is this your best? And then usually I can talk them off the ledge and get them to understand, that this is your brand and this is your first opportunity to make that key impression to get you in the door.
Right. We're going to talk more about that impression in a moment here, Tana. For those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. Tana Session is our guest for the segment. She's not only a career strategist. We're talking about her book, of course, that deals with this, Get Your Career Life in Order. We'll remind you how you can get your own copy of that. But she's also a life coach as well, and we're going to get more into that too. But Tana, talking about that impression, one of the things I've noticed, it's been kind of funny watching on social media, there are these ads with individuals, and basically the caption, the latest one I saw is with LaQuinta N, to dress for the job you want, not for the one you have. And the importance of showing the importance of, putting your best self forward. Dress is one of the things you also address in the book, especially in the world today. And I want to talk, in particular to us guys out there. I mean, why is it so important for you to share with them, how they kind of consider their dress and grooming when they're going in for interviews and even when they're going in for the job?
Because the first impression is usually done within 7 seconds. So you have 7 seconds for someone to decide, already make an impression about you. And whether before you even open your mouth and have a conversation, they've already judged you from head to toe. So showing up great is so important, and we can't discount it. And I tell people, especially with a lot of millennials coming into the workforce, they're a lot more relaxed and more casual, and they don't necessarily appreciate that companies have established dress codes. And I tell them, when you go for the interview, you need to dress your Sunday best, regardless of what the culture may be. And once you get the job, then you can adapt. But you want to, stand out. So if everyone else is dressed casual, of course you're going to stand out in a good way, not a bad way. And you'll be able to determine once you're in the company, okay, now what is the appropriate dress code? Can I wear flip-flops or should I not wear flip-flops? So it's so important. And men, yes, the grooming is important. I tell people, I had a bad experience with an interviewee one time when I was interviewing, and the gentleman had some very strong aftershave or cologne. And when he shook my hand, it stayed on my hand for the day, and it was in my office all day, and I couldn't get rid of it. And people kept asking me, what was that smell in my office? And we did eventually hire him, but I had a conversation with him before I extended the offer, and I told him what my feedback was. And I felt it was important for me to share that with him because probably no one else has ever done that. And I didn't want him to lose an opportunity because of not knowing. People don't know what they don't know. And so that's really what I talk about in the book, is giving people some knowledge of things that some of it may make common sense, and some of it they may have heard before. But I'm speaking from a true HR professional who's been doing this for over 20 years and have interviewed thousands of people. What are some of the things that I've seen people hang themselves up on?
Yeah. Now, the other hat that you wear that I mentioned as well, Tana, is that of being a life coach, which kind of extends even outside the workplace, being able to help people to be able to be their best selves even in their daily lives. I think, of course, for a lot of people, work is an important part of what they do, who they are. I want to talk to you about how we so easily define ourselves, because I think so many times, there are parents out there that feel as though, they can't get past that. That is the only way that people will look at them instead of what they're trying to do and building their own personal brand and business. And then there are other people who feel as though, they just can't be able to break through when it comes to their own goals and dreams. I mean, you've been able to help people to be able to, for one, I think, even as we see in this book, to be able to really be clear about what they want, the importance of making those steps. Have you found that one of the things that's been the most rewarding for you as a life coach, though, Tana, has been the fact that people actually get it? I mean, they actually understand what you're trying to share with them and realize that you're trying to help them get to where they want to go.
I love breakthroughs, so yes. People have blocks, and they sometimes don't even know what those blocks are. And the reason why I decided to get certified as a life coach is because when I was talking to people from a career perspective, oftentimes the reason that they were not happy or did not have fulfillment had nothing to do with their job. It had to do with something happening in their life that they never addressed or they never overcame. So I said, you know what, you can't have one without the other. So it's cyclical, and we have to be right in our life in order to be successful in our careers, in order to support our families. So you have to really go back to the root cause of it, and that's why I said life coaching has to be part of my package. Life coaching has to be a service that I talk to. Now, I tell people I'm not a psychologist, even though I have a master's in organizational psychology, but it's not psychology. But I talk to people about where they are now. I meet them where they are now and find out where they want to go. And then we dig deep to find out what's stopping you from getting there or what has stopped you in the past. And oftentimes it leads back to something that's happened in their life.
Right. And I think that's it. I think, we talk a lot on this program, Tana, about overcoming fear and not allowing fear to stop us, and how so many times, we are held back even for ourselves because we can't get out of our own way. I mean, you have been able to have success, as you mentioned, of course, in the work you've been able to do in business. You have been able to find success as a life coach. Was it an easy thing for you as you kind of, left 2016 going into the new year to think about adding another slash to your name as an author and to entering that realm?
No, not at all. And I like the acronym. I like to consider fear as an acronym for false evidence appearing real. So I believe in danger. I don't believe in fear. And one of the things I know I can do is bet on myself. And I had to learn that over the years. I didn't always have that amount of confidence or self-assuredness. I had to learn it. I had to appreciate where I had weaknesses and lean on people who had strengths in those areas to help support me versus thinking I needed to be able to be a complete package and know it all and have all the tools and resources I need. Going into writing, to me, was a natural progression because I felt that I had so much information in my head and even in my heart that I couldn't share in a speaking engagement unless I was there for the entire day. I couldn't share in one-on-one coaching unless I had the person for a year. So I wanted to put it in a user-friendly toolkit, for lack of a better word, that individuals can use and refer back to over and over. It's almost like having their own personal career and life coach in their pocket, which would be me, and using the tools and the templates and the worksheets that I have in the book as a way to really map it out for themselves. And they have to do the work. Without doing the work, nothing will happen. There will be no progression. And I had to do the work for myself as well.
Right. I think there's another thing that you say, and I think that I want to actually just read it from the book. This is what you write about organization when it comes to our lives, and especially when it goes into business. Your organizations have a board of direction. Some organizations have a board of directors. You should treat your career in the same manner. Establish a core group of supporters in your front row who will be honest and candid with you and provide ongoing guidance and feedback as you grow your career. Anyone who is not part of this core support group belongs in the back row or balcony of your life and should have little, if any, influence on your career goals. I think this is a powerful thing because a lot of times we end up listening to people who either have no idea what we're talking about, right, or they're dead weight in a sense. They're not there pushing us forward. How has that helped you, Tana, to be able to realize the importance of the people who are closest to you, that they do have a role, and to make sure that they are fulfilling that role and you all are fulfilling that role together?
Absolutely. So I think it's important to have those individuals, as I said in the book, that you can really be transparent and vulnerable with, because we have a certain face that we wear when we go to work. We have a certain face that we wear when we're running our business. We have a certain face that we wear even sometimes with our friends and family. But you need to have someone there or a couple of people there who really know the true you and can help hold you accountable, tell you when you're right and when you're wrong, and also be that arm, that shoulder that you can lean on in those moments of weaknesses. We all have them. And be there when you want to celebrate and really and truly celebrate with you and not hold any ill will, not wonder how did you get that promotion, why not me? That happens, unfortunately. And you just have to be really keen and understanding how to identify the behaviors that I tell people, follow and listen to your gut is always right. When you get a vibe from someone that just says, I don't think this person really has my best interest, or I think this person has an agenda, steer them towards the back row. Love them from a distance. And that may be family. I have family and friends that are in my back row right now to this day, and that's probably where they will stay. And that's okay with me because I can't have that energy around as I'm trying to build my brand and my business.
Right. And you go on to talk about even having a coach, of course, being able to have that, but also, to realize the importance of the work. You mentioned that earlier, and I think it's interesting. I mentioned social media earlier. We're going to close with that aspect, but I think one of the big things that you have in the book when it comes to the elevator pitch, is how you call it. The first thing is, who are you? That's sometimes, and it's so funny because I find sometimes one of the hardest questions, and I've talked about this online, one of the hardest questions for me to answer is, what do you do? Because it's a question that comes up a lot. That's what I think a lot of us get, that question. The question, though, of who are you? I mean, talk to us about that for you and how you've been able to identify the answer to that and what that means for you in your life and your business.
Sure. Again, I think going through that self-reflection and understanding where you are in your path and knowing what value you bring to the table. So, yes, it's about, you can switch it out and say, what do you do? But I think it's also important to be affirmative and about who you are. And, again, it goes back to your brand. What is that brand that you're representing as an employee, as a business owner, as, someone that is just getting started in their career? And that's where you talk about who are you, right? And that's how you start off your conversation. So that gives them something to remember you by, because I can say, oh, I'm a coach. Well, there's tons of coaches out here, but who am I? Right. What makes me different? What differentiates me from the other coaches? That's really what I start my conversations off with, and that's how I like to introduce myself.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of work for us to do in the book. Again, the title of the book is Get Your Career Life in Order. One of the things that you mentioned in the book is something you also take advantage of, Tana, and that is social media. How has that helped you in not only communicating with your audience, but also in growing your brand?
It's so important. It's a way of life. There's no way around it. I had to learn to embrace it early on. I tried to fight it because it's work, it's something else that you have to do. But it does help me engage with my audiences, and especially now I'm starting to do more speaking engagements, and I get to meet people who actually follow me on Instagram and tell me how my stuff has inspired them or keeps them motivated, or they love the posts that I put up on Fridays with the job tips, that kind of thing. So that lets me know, like, oh, there is someone out here listening to me, I'm not just doing it, just to have a presence. But oftentimes people, especially if you're a business owner, they will want to know what your social media imprint is. How many followers do you have on Instagram or on Twitter? What are you sharing with your audience? And are you an influencer, as they call it these days? And if so, that can help catapult your business. That will help people want to do business with you because they feel that there's going to give them some exposure as well as a result. So the two go hand in hand. Now, in terms of those who are in the workforce that are on social media, I say be careful. I tell people keep your private and make certain that there's nothing out there that people can Google about you that you wouldn't want your parents or your grandparents to read or see. So it's so important. When I was back in the day, it used to be what you don't want to see in the newspaper. Well, we can eliminate that as an analogy now and say what you don't want your grandparents or your parents to see or read, or even your children or future children, because it's so important that a lot of things don't go away. And that's what I teach a lot of my younger clients. And I do have parents that come to me and ask me to give that message to their children because they don't listen to the parents. So they want to hear it from someone who's been in HR and who's experienced going out there and finding some stuff that made me say, ooh, yeah, don't know if we want that in our culture.
Right. Exactly. I think that is so true. And I think, it's almost, these days, everything kind of blends together, right? It's like, social media, some people look at that as quote-unquote fun, but now, of course, it's very serious in the way that people are able to view it and also to be able to make a judgment about an individual for good or bad. And I think it's one of the things that we see. Again, everyone, Tana Session has been our guest. Great conversation with you, Tana. The title of her book is Get Your Career Life in Order. It's available through our friends at Amazon.com. You guys can one-click the Kindle edition now, or, of course, you can order the print edition as well. Tana mentioned that she's on social media as well as has a website. So, Tana, let our audience know how they can stay connected with you.
Absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm under TMS Biz, B-I-Z Solutions, so they can find me there. On Twitter, I'm under Tana Tane, T-A-N-A-T-A-N-E, and my Facebook page is TMS Business Solutions, as well as my website, www.tmsbizsolutions.com.
All right. Well, Tana, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to staying connected with you.
Yes, Cyrus. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Hey, more than welcome. And we thank you all for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late, you missed part of the conversation with Tana, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media sites. So head over to Facebook.com/Cyrus Webb or go over to Twitter.com/Cyrus Webb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share with your friends from there too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. You will make it a great one.